In this episode of my Sorare Journey, episode 103, we're going to demonstrate how to get better at Sorare. Now, yesterday we had the most awful essence crafting experience in history. In order to get over stupid decisions and unlucky mistakes, often just try and work as hard as I can to improve on those certain areas. In this area, obviously, it is Sorare. So what you're going to see is clips of when I was building my team, the finalized versions of them, what I was thinking at the time, and then we're going to clip back to today. This will run over a couple of days most likely. We'll talk about what I got right, what I got wrong, what was overlooked, and yeah, we should learn and get better. Look into some stats as well. If you like that, drop a like and we'll go now. So this on screen is my current most important team of the week. A huge change happened last night, and I'm not saying it won't change back before the deadline tonight, but Bruno Fernandes has gone in for João Paulinho. Obviously, in my last Sorare Journey video, I made an explanation of why I think Paulinho statistically could be the better option. You know, a 10-point differential actually made him the best option. Now, for me, this is the first game week. I don't want to risk everything on my most important team. Obviously, the basic sort of everyone's suggestion would be Fernandes. He's a better player. He'll score higher. So what really made me make that change is just risk averse. You know, the whole big thing we need to get is these hot streaks. In order to get the hot streaks, it's, you know, about growing that every week, about being consistent. So although Paulinho could put up a better score because he could put 100 up and then 4% the rest of the team, that would be fantastic. I think the most likely outcome is they score very similarly. It all depends how dominant this new Man United team are. Are they good? Can they compete with Arsenal's? Do they get steamrolled? That is mainly it. But alternatively, when you're looking at João Paulinho, you've got to suggest, is he 100% likely to play? Because my goal is for the third game week to be hitting that hot streak, which would get me $1,000. Plus all the other stuff, I'd probably easily get £1,000 back, which would be huge 3 game weeks in. While Paulinho's only 70% likely to play, for me he's probably a bit higher. But there's also one key thing that I note with this 70%, is that during the Super Cup, he was brought off. Now, that wouldn't really matter for me for an outfield attacking player, but for an outfield central defensive mid, your points are slow and progressive. If you play 120 minutes, you're far more likely to get more points, more tackles, more passes. It's just how the game works. So when I'm looking at Paulinho and I'm comparing his previous scores, which has always been on my mind, you know, high average, 55, 50, 60 sort of average player, depending who they're playing, well, you've got to cut that down by 30 minutes every game because he's not fully fit at the minute. So although I think statistically it's got ideas of being the best option, for me, and potentially just a better option overall, is Fernandes. It's your star players. You play your star players every single week. That's why they're star players. You know, average of 65 includes Arsenal. I went as far as actually looking into sort of historic scores of Fernandes, and I found the one that I actually think makes the most sense. So you can see like a score like 32 at Chelsea really put me off. They lost 1-0. He played most of it, just had a stink all round. But obviously that's not a true reflection. Towards the end of the season, I was looking for sort of a big team that they've played. I was like, Man City, you know, no goals, no assists, but still 64 points. But most importantly, this is where I sort of put this game, a 1-1 or a 2-2 or a 2-1. That's where I see it. I don't see a clean sheet for basically either side. And you look at it and you see, right, Fernandes is getting 75s in a 1-1 at home. It's the exact same fixture. It was, what, like 6 months ago? It's the basic closest comparison we get. And when I did that for João Paulinho, it wasn't filling me with confidence, especially when you adjusted for only 60 minutes, not 90, which is what I expect him to play. Then the risk of him not playing. So for now, it's going to stay on Fernandes. I'm happy with the choice. So currently, the most important change of the game week is off to a great start, because if you didn't know, João Paulinho was actually benched for this game and only played 11 minutes, which drastically ruins his average scores. You know, a season-long average can go out the window if you're only going to play 11 minutes. Now, for me, I did expect him to play to a degree, but I knew there was that risk. The key for me was the average minutes. Now, when I was doing my initial discussions, I was saying, he's a 55, 60 long-term average across the season. But after the Super Cup, I realised he wouldn't be playing every single minute like he did at Fulham when he got those big averages. He would be playing maximum 60 minutes. So I've got some numbers to sort of break it down a bit more clear. Paulinho, 55 average. Against Burnley, he's probably a 55 average again. It's so hard to predict CDMs when they get their scores because, it's based on tackles, which are pretty unpredictable, and, passing. And, sometimes they smash high scores with a random goal from a corner or a long ball assist. But, yeah, for me, you just keep them pretty static. Compare that to Fernandes. He's obviously got a tough fixture, 60, 55 against Arsenal. That would be pretty solid. We saw against Man City, got a 65. Against Arsenal, we got a 75, I think it was, but that was with a goal. So that's great. But when you adjust per minute, when you do 60 minutes over the potential 90 of your 55 average, it's much lower. Gives you a 23 points differential. Add in, say, 10 points for that extra 4% bonus across my whole team. In theory, Fernandes should be better off. So currently, it's looking good. But of course, I'll touch back in with you guys after the Man United versus Arsenal game. Everyone else, Leno is a big worry for me. I did actually put a very small amount. I think I put an extra £150 into Sorare to secure a better goalkeeper or a second goalkeeper so I can rotate in and out. Now, I didn't secure that first week because I think the essence crafting, the lack of promotions, and everything else that basically stops once the game week starts, I think we'll see another further dip in card prices. So, I've got in early, and if they go up, brilliant, great news. I think most likely scenario is they go down in price again. At least I can get a little bit of basically that discount, which I'm quite happy with. Now, for Bernd Leno, we were never truly confident in him because Brighton are a good team, expected to score goals. Overall, they came out with a 1-1, which is great for Fulham. But what really surprised me, unfortunately I didn't get to watch this game, but when I came off the golf course, I saw the score. I expected Leno to have more than 40 because of Brighton's attacking, threat, saves, and we need to break this down. I've already taken a look at it. So general, he's going to lose 5 points for a goal conceded. That was to be expected. Thankfully, it wasn't any more. And goalkeeping wise, he got 3 saves, 2 good high claims. One of those saves was in the box. So, that's the sort of score you would expect. So add those together, you'd be on 35 plus 11, and then you get your bonuses after that. But the key for Leno is he's actually lost possession 13 times during the game, which isn't great because it's a double effect on the Sorare scoring system. Because when you lose those possessions, you're missing your passes as well. So that's going to be 6.5 points lost there. So over a long term of a season, that effect will actually add up. Even though I know for many of you it will seem very, very small, but the problem is, I knew about this last season, and that's why I went with Vicario, because being a Celtic fan, I knew Ange Postecoglou plays out from the back. So those little, points you're going to get every single week add up. If they keep a clean sheet, he's going to, skyrocket as well. So that's something a little bit worried about. Obviously, I touched about the market, how I didn't want to get a player now because I'm expecting prices to fall. We'll take a look if that's actually happening. It's probably, far too early to tell because there'll be so many, or so little auctions, sorry. So the only recent sale is a public offer of 146, so that would be a dip for Leno. Whether this is true across all the goalkeepers, we need to take a proper look because it's different, especially when you haven't had many auctions. So I don't think there's been any auctions, So these were all pre-deadline, I'm pretty sure. So that doesn't really have an effect. I'd like to see how Nottingham Forest and how Matt Sells play today. But I have got a different suggestion for myself. When you're looking at Sorare, you can think long-term. A lot of people think too short-term. I know at the minute there's that 5x boosted, so even myself, I've been looking pretty short-term at, the first 3 fixtures. But Martinez, fantastic goalkeeper, European football, should be pretty nailed. And he's super cheap because he's suspended. But it's only 3 games of the season. So it could be worth getting him. I wouldn't get him today. I'd get him after maybe the second suspension, try and, beat the crowd if other people are thinking the same thing. But that's a pretty low price. It just depends how my hot streaks go as well, because, if I do get to that third hot streak, it's very difficult to get. So I need to have basically 5 good fixtures or 5 good scorers, which obviously Martinez is suspended for the first 3 games of the season, so that could be dubious timing. But yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. But overall with Leno, sort of to be expected, I guess. Aït-Nouri at 70% would obviously be a risk for most people. The alternative they've got there is that O'Reilly, the young player that played a bit at left back last year. For me, they're not in the same league. So basically, if they're both fully fit, which is the information I have currently, Aït-Nouri is more like an 80-90 selection, which is what I was talking about in my last video, where it's like, as a projection guy, as someone that's putting these predictions out, 70% of Aït-Nouri is reasonable. No one's going to question it. You're saying he's playing, but you are a bit defensive. You don't want to go too attacking. But pretty much every pre-season game he was playing, which is the Club World Cup for them, he's a better player. He was signed for loads of money. He's basically the only one in his slot that can play, except for O'Reilly, who's basically a youngster. So again, for me, 80-90. If I'm wrong, you're going to see it very shortly. Aït-Nouri, what a man, my potential new GOAT for the season, because it's not just putting up a big score, it's putting up a big score with no decisive actions. This was done just through general play, defending 37. He's got his clean sheet, he's got clearances, he won 4 tackles, a triple. That means he's also winning duels, winning interceptions. That is just mental. Passing wise, this is where you expect all your Man City players to do well, because they dominate the ball, and that is just fantastic. He hasn't even got, much attacking output there. We're not expecting it. These sort of 3 should be the core of his season. And I'm super bullish on this guy. That's why I got the 1 of 100. I'm super happy with the pickup. I knew I was paying a little premium, but I just wanted him in the gallery. Compare this to the rest of the team. Haaland, 2 goals, still scored lower. Reinders, goal and assist, still scored lower. The only actual player to outscore him was Rico Lewis, who got a assist from a defensive player. That doesn't happen too frequently. So super happy with this. I said he's very likely to play. I didn't have him at 70%. I was more 80-90%. And I think that's right, because even when O'Reilly come on, he didn't come on for Aït-Nouri. So I think that shows, he's one of Pep's more reliable players. There's not much more depth there. Maybe I'm speaking too soon, but I knew Wolves weren't a good team. I knew Aït-Nouri would do fantastic. So very, very happy with that selection. Don't forget, if you are enjoying the content, you can donate to the channel. You can do it monthly or a one-off. Maybe you've had a good week, you want to send me £1, that would be brilliant. I'd really appreciate any donations. All the best. Cheers. Cole Palmer, of course, the only worry for me here. Crystal Palace, how good are they after that draw with Liverpool? Maybe a bit of fatigue, but it was a week ago. So no, probably none of that. It's just a good team versus hopefully a better team in Chelsea. It wouldn't shock me if he didn't get a decisive. What would shock me if Salah didn't get a decisive? For me, it's Bournemouth losing their whole defensive line. I think attacking, they'll be good. I think overall, strong team, great manager. But it's just their whole defensive line went, and it was so good. It sold for, 150 mil? Something like that. So, very reliable maybe. The only issue I have with Liverpool is I don't know where the decisives come from. I imagine it's quite split out. So look, you've just got to live with that. You can't really predict that. On to the Liverpool game. Salah saves me last minute with a goal, a 78, times that by his captain bonus of 50%. That is going to be huge coming to the end of this game week. Now, overall, I think I really predicted this game well as well. Expecting Liverpool to score loads of goals because of the new defensive line. You can see, obviously, it's not going to score very well. But one better than that was that it's the risk with Salah this season is they're going to be sharing decisive actions across this team because they're all so good. And I think that's what we saw, Last season, everything went through Salah. He was the main man. This season, I know he's still the best player in the team, but those decisives will be shared. There's no chance Florian Wirtz goes without a couple of decisive actions, which is bringing back horrible memories of the Essence Craft yesterday. But we're going to move on. A fantastic player on set pieces. Gakpo's great. Really, really happy and lucky to get a last-minute goal. And at the same time, I said, Bournemouth are good going forward, expecting them to score. That will affect some of my other teams that we might touch on later. And of course, Cole Palmer, he hasn't played yet, but I still maintain sort of a similar feeling that, with the bookies, Chelsea are hot favourites to win. Not sure about winning. I think, there's so many unknowns with this. Maresca's got so many formations he can do and change, which plays brilliantly into his hands. But at the same time, we saw Crystal Palace last week against Liverpool, one of the strongest teams in the league, if not the strongest team in the league. 2-2 draw, then winning on penalties. They can't be overlooked. So it wouldn't shock me if Palmer didn't get a decisive, but I still expect a high score from him. So that's why, it was Salah captain over Palmer. The only thing that we probably need to discuss here is that, Aït-Nouri with the best score, I didn't put enough consideration on giving him the armband. Wolves aren't great. I've got all sort of the decisions right so far, or, majority right. You'll never get everything right. And I didn't really consider Aït-Nouri for the captaincy. So that's one to learn from and, consider all your options. I thought it's Palmer or Salah, and that was a mistake of mine, and we'll learn from that. Moving on to my contender in season, there's not really too much to talk about. The core goal here is just to get a little $20 for a really, really low score. But I explained how low that score was in my last journey. We got 2 red cards in the first half and we missed it. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Obviously, last week they're all at home, so this week they're all away, I think. Maybe I changed the captaincy of Samuel Lino. I did see he played midweek, so yeah, I could see why he wouldn't start again. But overall, not a lot to say. I don't really have much to say about this team except Kawasaki Frontale are the worst team I have ever seen on Sorare. How do you drop these sorts of scores in a 1-1 draw against a weak team in the league? All I needed was 275 points. I've missed it again. I just want $20. The team costs less than 100 quid. I don't really care about it, but the score's so low, lads. Just go get it. We'll move on to basically, you're not that guy, pal. So, is there much to say here? I just sort of got all of the star players and put them in one lineup. Now, they're not perfect fixtures, but great fixture, great fixture, great fixture, great fixture, good fixture, okay fixture. We really need to see. I'm pretty bullish on Man United this year. I think they'll be very good. So for me, not amazing, but I could also see Man United of old coming out and Arsenal winning 3-0 comfortably. So this just a mega team, not much to speak about. Obviously, we're going for those star awards, but if there's only 8, now this I haven't actually looked at, and I don't know how. Yeah, so 4,500 people are playing, and only 8 get stars. So yeah, classic prize pools aren't really up to much, but 1,000 essence up to 120th, that'd be pretty solid. 50th, yeah. I'm looking for a top 50 here without doubt. Good fixtures. Captaincy's even going to split between Trent or Rafinha. I'm pretty certain on Trent. Guy's just the guy, but he's so rare. Again, we've got depth here, so we're probably looking here, top 120. Great squad all round. Tielemans, less sure about. Captaincy sitting on Saka at the minute, just because we've got pretty Arsenal dominated, so I do want him to do well. Now, this is a team I actually do want to touch on because, yeah, it's doing fairly well. Rafinha scored, Van Dijk put a good score up. But I definitely did not think about my goalkeeper choice. I've got Raya, I've got Unai Simon, they're in lower teams. I literally said Bournemouth would score, they're good going attacking. Bilbao are one of the best defensive teams there are, especially with Simon in goal. Sevilla weren't great last season, they almost got relegated. So that's not amazing. And talking about something else that isn't amazing, just the load of stacks of just teams in this leaderboard, 664 points for Barcelona, a Barcelona stack. You got, a Leon stack? How did they win? They won 1-0. It's probably not going to be that fun of a game mode, this. I mean, I'm not complaining. I've got, a load of star cards put into a team, but I don't think you should be able to stack a whole club, really. It's just not much thought. It's not really fantasy football. But I'm not too bothered about, these. I'd like to win some essence, maybe do some better grafting. Ooh. When I was speaking at the start about my 4%, And I've still got these classic cards and the Cody Gakpo I'll be giving away in the next My Sorare Journey video. You've already entered, by the way. I was in my 100th episode, but I'll be drawing the winner then. So in this one, we're just looking at basically putting a worse player in and getting 4%, especially across 7 players. So yeah, that's why Paulinho's in here. It's also great for XP. Star players, we're looking at 40 out of 2,100. So yeah, limited classic champion is going to be an absolute brutal slog. But yeah, it's more experimental for me. Like I said, on my main team, I've gone risk averse, but I'm still learning. I'm still testing the waters. Would it have been the right choice? So I'm happy to find out either way, basically. I think my alternative wasn't great, but it was good. Yeah, so Chouameni from Real Madrid is basically the other option. So yeah, not too bad there. Actually, the winner for Cody Gakpo will be drawn right now. Never used this site before. We're going to see how it goes. Hopefully it picks someone. How many comments did we get? 100? Ooh, 211. That is mental. That should be without replies. And the winner is Perfect Chicken 4683. Congratulations on the big triple digit, Eric Y. Congratulations. Hope you're watching. All the best. And it's a new day. Every player has played. Rewards are out, which means we have more players to assess, starting with a massive, massive concern. Cole Palmer dropping a 39 score against Crystal Palace. Now, I said I wasn't particularly, bullish on this fixture. I thought it's a lot harder than the bookies make out, than everyone else makes out, just because, Crystal Palace are a good side when they have this full starting 11. But there's more to worry about than just the result. The big lack of AA is huge. Attacking wise, 1.5 for one of the best creative midfielders in the league. Very scary. And, same for 5.9 passing. Now, everyone has a bad game, but it's not just the result. It's not just the AA. It's the stuff I was very keen about on Chelsea, being adaptable, being able to change formation, bring in different players that bring different game styles. Didn't really see that either, 12 minutes for Gusto, 12 minutes for Santos, Estavio. I know how to say that name, but that's not how you say it, but whatever. Just not enough change, or not early enough for me. And obviously, being your star player, it's very, very worrying. Then you roll that onto your hot streak, and he's put us under some serious pressure. But Bruno Fernandes says, pressure? What pressure? A 53, that's more than enough. We needed 400 points to hit the first hot streaks. That's $100 banked for the season already. But most importantly, that 5x streak, hot streak run, it rolls over. I'm into week 2. I'll show you about week 2 shortly. It is going to be hugely, hugely important for me, and for many of us at home as well. But let's just talk about Fernandes, because when I talk about Cole Palmer being worried, when I talk about Bruno Fernandes, I'm excited, seriously excited. Now, of course, on the face of it, sort of what you would expect in the region of his average score against this sort of team, very similar with my predictions. But for me, it was just the United attack. They looked like they could score against anyone, except maybe Arsenal. But, for me, should have had a penalty when Cunha got brought down. And plenty of other chances where they're just unlucky, or Raya just went off, making ridiculous saves. So, ultra bullish on this now. I don't know how good United will be as a team, defensively, sort of things, but if they can keep up that sort of intensity, pressure, creating chances, they look serious, and Fernandes is at the heart of it all, pulling all the strings. So that is incredible for me. When we roll into the other teams, I won't spend much time on these. Just big disappointments all round, really. These guys not being able to hit the really low score of 260, 270, whatever it is. And then even like this, where I've put all the stars in one lineup and I'm just going for it, it hasn't really worked. Now, of course, Arsenal sort of ruined this lineup, but even Trent, captain, with a win 49, it just shows that how hard classic champion's going to be to win. 731 points, won it with a pretty mega team. Who's he captain there? Arda Güler. Interesting choice. Smart choice, I'd say. But yeah, just got a bit unlucky, but doesn't matter when you still come first place. Should we take a look who he won? I imagine... Now, the problem with winning this is that you can get cards in season that are not in your league. Oh, did he win Lamine Yamal first week out? Yeah, that'll do it, boys. So that concludes that Classic Champion's going to be very hard to win, but if you do, it can be very lucrative. Obviously, Lamine Yamal, £1,500 card at the minute, I think. There has been some more changes in the gallery, and it's another way of how to learn Sorare, how to get better at Sorare, but not by this time copying what I do and, you know, understanding it that way. Maybe avoiding what I've done. So let's talk about it. You might have seen the cart promo where if you buy 5 cards, you get 1 card for free. So I was doing a bit of research into this promo, just sort of looking what other people had done. Initially, I wanted to get Man United so I can get the collection bonus for Fernandes. There was a little bug, a little error where it wouldn't let me do it, so whatever. I waited a couple of hours, checked some more results, and I've gone for Fulham. Now, Fulham makes sense. I've got Leno. They were ultra cheap. I think the whole bundle was like £35. And of course, you get some players that maybe get some minutes. Alternative to that, you do get the collection bonus, as I've already said, and you get to vault them at worst case scenario, which is obviously where a lot of these are. So in my first bundle, I was happy with my strategy, and I got Alex Iwobi as my free card. At the time, he was trading for £50, so I spent £35, got a load of cards, a load of collection, and a forward, which if you watched, maybe it was episode 99 or 98 of my Sorare Journey, he was actually on my shortlist of like budget players that I could build into the team for different fixtures. Like I think they play Burnley soon or something like that. So amazing. So a lot of you at home might be like, well, you've got a forward you wanted for a cheap price, a profit, and even a little bit of depth with this Georgie Cassini guy. You know, he's starting at the minute. So what am I not copying? Well, what you're not copying is what they exactly want you to do, probably. Now, I'm not sure if it was because it was my first sort of cart buy or whatever, but of course, when you're making a profit and everything's going right, you're going to do it again, right? Like, gambler's fallacy. I was basically just gambling at this point, which is obviously what you shouldn't be doing. But this time, I went for a more expensive team in Liverpool. I looked at all of the top teams, and Liverpool were about 20% cheaper. It cost about £100, so you can probably tell I bought these players and I got another one of them. I got Reece Williams twice, who couldn't cut it at Morecambe. He is far from a Liverpool player, even though he is technically signed by Liverpool. Yeah, it just shows what Sorare as a company would probably want you to do. It shows like poor form from me, where obviously they're not going to give out good cards every time. I did, check historically what people were getting, and it looked good, but of course I can't see the full picture. So yeah, just learn from that. I don't have any Liverpool star players where this XP bonus would be helpful, so I'm losing out in that regard. I literally just basically burnt £100, and there was just a big lack of strategy to it, except big card might win sort of aspect. And I'd love to tell you I stopped there, but at this point, I was just a bit disappointed in myself again. Because this time, we went for Everton, which we also don't have any cards of, so no collection bonus helps here. But this is slightly different, because they cost maybe about £50-55, and my very high intention, was to get Jordan Pickford. So I wanted to do another one, partially because it could be profitable, partially because I was annoyed at myself. And when you're looking at these cards, last season for collection bonus, I was paying about £10 a card anyway. So this time I'd be paying about £10 a card, I've got a chance to make a profit, and at worst comes to worst, I get 10 free spins and I can vault them for a little bit of, boosted vault points. Yeah, well, you can tell me. We got a little bit of depth in Beto, and we won Michael Keane. So I think I am just the epitome of what Sorare want you to do. They dangle a little carrot, then you chuck loads of money at them. So, well done me. But this would have ended on a horrible story if I recorded it yesterday. But today, something's changed. Yeah. I currently own Florian Wirtz, 1 of 100. So, almost like I said at the start of this video, when you make a mistake, you've got to work harder and sort of learn to make the best of a bad situation. This is exactly that. You know, I'd wasted that money on the Liverpool collection bonus, but this isn't me, you know, wasting that and then just going and spending a load of money on Wirtz. I actually did a trade deal. I got a trade deal, old season cards for in-season cards, a 1 of 100. And I don't think I got my eyes ripped out. I think I actually got a good deal here. This guy picked up the card for 1,252 points. The current floor price and the last sales are £550 to £615. I can tell you he had the card listed for £519. So this trade deal, you know, it's £280 plus Palmer, which last sale was £150. Guardiola last sale was actually 80 at the time. Pope, a bit of a weird one. He's sort of gone up 35, 45, and this guy £20. So I ended up thinking I was paying about 340 to 350. 550 to 540 pound for a card that is worth already more than that. Literally sold on the last auction for more than that. But I also got a 1 of 100, which I now have more collection bonus for because I've got a load of Reece Williams and friends. I just couldn't believe it. And, you know, this comes to a little bit of luck and being active on the market. So I was scouting the market. I'll try and show you sort of what I was doing actually. If you go to manager sales and you go to, say, I am looking for a keeper at the minute, popular players is cool, but you've actually got the lowest price because there's not a highest priced option. Obviously, I'm looking for highest price cards, you know, top quality starts. If you're looking for low value cards, look for low value. And you just sort of go backwards. So you're like, okay, which of these is sort of the most appealing price to me? And you're going through, and again, for me, it'd be like an Onana or a Leno. And you're just seeing, okay, well, these are manager sales. You might go in, and then you're looking into more than just that. You're then trying to see basically their last sales, and are you getting a good price? So 138 is actually, let's pull this up large. The last auction was 121. That's sort of the region where you want to be aiming for a target of that, plus a little bit extra because people don't really like classic cards. So I think that is fantastic. I'd actually touch on the players I sold because they're quite crucial as well. You know, Cole Palmer, I've already got one, so I've doubled up. The problem is in seasons where, you know, the most of your returns come from, but I can't use this Cole Palmer in season because I've already using his in season version. Josko Guardiola, obviously a bit injured, but this for me was actually the differential between the old season card and the in-season card. It was about 2x, you know, it's about double. So if you consider that for Cole Palmer, it's about 4x. So, you know, in this scenario, what I'd actually be trying to do on the market is sell Guardiola old season, buy it in season. And this is sort of what I've done. You know, I've left capital on the table where I can do that. Nick Pope, you know, risk of losing his job anytime, and it's the same for Golaski and just depth options I don't really need. So an absolutely huge transfer. And to anyone watching this video thinking, didn't you need a goalkeeper? Yeah. Well, now I'm basically at the position where I have this sort of depth chart and it is incredibly strong. You know, defender, an extra defensive, you know, depth piece, that's like top quality, like a Reece James or someone brilliant, and a goalkeeper. Now I had decided on Pickford and I still want him, But if we look at Jordan Pickford and we look at his sale price, he's selling for 359. Is not a true reflection, because that was that was someone just wanting rid of him after an Essence Craft or something. He's selling for about 388. I know that because I've been outbid on the last two. So would you want to pay 388, or was it? It wasn't 530 I got outbid for, because I came second bid on Raya yesterday as well. Or okay, maybe that was just lag. Because when I saw it, it was actually finished at 488 on Raya. So I'll likely still try and get Pickford. There is one up on the market, but I doubt he's going to be selling at the sort of prices I want to list at. So we'll have to see how it goes. The reason I'm set on Pickford now for this video is that I basically did a fixture list for him and Leno, who are my two prospective goalkeepers, and every week for the next 9 to 10 weeks there's a really decent option for one of them. They sort of dovetail really well together, where one has a hard fixture, the other one has an easy fixture, and I think it's that sort of additional additional research that can really push you far in Sorare. So these being sort of some of my tips and my reflections. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and at the end of the day, all the best to you. Cheers.